as institutions, we need to establish or put in place a centralized decision support dashboard. I'm happy that Kenya Met Department is now working with other stakeholders to come up with a monitoring dashboard that is able to help us monitor what is happening, communicate effectively in time, and therefore trigger anticipatory action. So for the institutions we have, the three elements I've mentioned are very critical in ensuring that we bridge the gap between Earth observation and actionable decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Chris, I think I'd also like to direct that to you with what you're doing at famine early warning. How do we integrate?
Thank you. I think this borrows a lot from Kenya Met as well, what Richard has mentioned. And I think one of the things that we do is making the data sort of free or open for everyone. And this basically makes room for innovation, for research and all that. So you get new ideas on what works where, and what strengths or weaknesses are your data. So if you have an open data sharing protocols, then that becomes slightly much easier in terms of getting data across the board. And of course, you have to standardize. So you need that centralized institution that I think Richard has also mentioned. And you know, if you look at developed countries, you have the USGS, which is now the key Earth observation, maybe through NASA and all that. For Kenya, maybe now Kenya Space Agency can take that lead and, you know, just harmonize all these Earth observation data into one sort of platform or data sharing and create protocols that now are standardized for the public. And then I think, again, just to borrow on what Richard has mentioned, is create county, you know, devolutionalize these data protocols. So you have the county information systems or the county data management information systems. So this allows data to flow up and down as well. I think from the first panelists, we had that, you know, you have the national government and then you have the county governments. When you go to the counties, there's a challenge on how you acquire the data, or you find that maybe this county collects data differently from this. So how do we harmonize that? And then how do we have now a centralized data management information system that now pulls up back to the national level? Lastly, I think, as I mentioned earlier, joint analysis. So in order for you not to work in a silo, you have to collaborate with each other. So the partnership. So when you read FuseNet, there's the net part of it. So that stands for network. So we do not stand on our own. We have to leverage on Kenya Met. We have to leverage on NDMA and so on and so forth, just to be able to at least either get the data or also disseminate this data further into the farm level analysis. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Very good key takeaways for both state actors who are here, private sector. I think he's really broken down what that would look like for us to integrate Earth observation. I'm going to jump to Pauline on funding and financing. I think for start is for you to demystify for us the misconception on what we mean when talking about financing. I think you mentioned there's a misconception there. I think it would be good to sort of help us understand what that is. And then I'm also curious to get your thoughts on the financing and procurement models that you think would sustain the Earth observation operational services beyond just the pilot services, pilot projects. How do we really sustain Earth observation projects to create impact? And as we are doing that, as she answers that, maybe we can have, if you have a question, just have your hand up, and then I can't see the MC. Yeah, the MC will get that to you as Pauline answers that question.
So I feel that the narrative is being pushed towards most of these things have a very high cost, but we are forgetting in terms of disasters, if we don't use these tools, what's the cost of that? Zachary had mentioned the effect that we had with the floods last year in Kenya. And even beyond the floods, if you're looking at beyond natural disasters, if you look at informal settlements and so on, if we invested in technology, we would avoid a lot of that when we are able to use technology and to address situations. Even before you get to response and recovery, you start from mitigation. How do you stop or avoid a lot of these things happening? So instead of putting the cost on the data costs this much and the technology costs this much, let's start quantifying. If we don't apply technology now, if we don't use data now, what is the impact or what is the effect of that in the long term? That aside, as Esri, for those who don't know, Esri, global company, we've been around for close to 60 years. We are a technology company, so it's beyond software. We also provide services and other solutions that are tied to working with Earth observations, basically space data. So the approach I would recommend is the approach of public-private partnership, which has worked well. So from the perspective of Esri, we have provided access to technology across the world where people invest in it. But now for specific countries, Esri has come to the point of we are sharing the cost with some of these countries. What that means is that we have subsidized the cost of this technology to different agencies for specific countries. So we have geo-enablement programs, as I mentioned, the one we have for disaster response, where we provide access to the full suite of our technology. And beyond that, we have professional services being provided at no cost. We bring in our partners, providers of content like Maxa. They provide imagery for that. We bring in relationships we have through an example, Overture Foundation, crowdsource information to bring that in. So we are helping agencies to not shoulder the cost immediately at the event of a disaster, but now we are sharing the cost with them. Another aspect is a recently launched program we have. It's called Map Africa, which now this lies on the, the mitigation step, whereby we are helping through a collaboration. So we have Microsoft, G42, we are helping all government agencies to be able to map baseline information for their countries. This is something we are rolling out from early next year. Would love to get your feedback, perspective on it. So it means that any data that you will need for preparedness, for response, for recovery, we are working with governments to ensure that they do that. And again, this is a cost being taken up by Microsoft, G42, and Esri to help agencies, countries assist their citizens before disaster. I loved the example that was given yesterday with ESA. They provide a lot of services, and it costs each European 15 euros for us to have access to this information. I think that's a beautiful example of a model of public-private partnership or through development partners to help us shoulder this cost. So for many people who are looking towards this, invest in those relationships, build those relationships where the cost is shared across board, as opposed to having immediate investment at the point where the financing is needed for response. Instead of investing in technology at that time, let's invest in the actual issue of response. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I don't know if there were questions from the audience. Oh, sorry, there's one there. And as they're doing that, I'm glad Pauline talked about the fact that the cost lost to disasters compared to software is really big. And I'm glad I had this slide for that. So that's 3 to 5% GDP lost for Kenya alone when it comes to disasters. So that was a really good touch point. Question? Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. And I thank you very much, our panelists. My name is Joshua Adem. I work for the government as a consultant in special programs. And also, I'm a researcher in the non-communicable diseases. Now, my question is it is not a question, but it is a concern. I was expecting much from my friend from the disaster preparedness on how you manage your activities every year and how much you spend every time the disaster appears. We are always concerned about the floods. And also we are always concerned on how we use the land. On how we use the land, most of the times we spend much in putting up the dams. And from those dams, there are open dams. And every year the budget goes for the open dams. But what we achieve from those open dams are minimal. And you haven't come up with any alternative so that what you are talking about, saving from the expenditure, may be cut so that that money goes for another project. So my question to you is whether you have tried, because this has been tried in some areas and it worked. And Kenya, because we have the fertile land is here with us, we can do much with our land as we save the land and as we use it in the proper way. Have you ever thought of coming up with what we call the underground dams? The underground dams will save much water to sustain the open dams when they're dry. So in my research, I've seen that one can work in Kenya and it can make us also be food sustainable. The other question to you, also we spend much talking on ASAL areas, and it is year go, year come. We spend the same. Have you ever thought that the ASAL area can be made productive and those people to be made to remain there permanently without migration? I know you asked me how. Have you ever thought of coming up with what we call artificial forest, whereby this area now will be fertile and the land will be productive, so that also the money we spend much in the ASAL region to mitigate the drought is used for another thing? Thank you. I think I had those two for you first.
Anyone wants to take that on the panel? Oh, that was directed to Red Cross.
Yeah, it wasn't directed to the Kenya Red Cross, but thank you so much, Joshua. And the good thing you have mentioned that you are working with the government, and the Kenya Red Cross is auxiliary to the government. We are there to support the work of the national government and of course the county government. For sure, if you go 30 years ago and where we are, the cost of responding to the disasters is costly as compared to the amount of funds for the early action. For example, the intensity and the frequency of drought and flooding has been increasing. That means that we are spending a lot. Of course, you have mentioned about the underground water reservoirs in terms of the dams as compared to the surface, whereby we have the earth dams. Even though we haven't thought about taking advantage of the underground service. For example, if you go to most of the Rift Valley counties, sometimes you can just find the surface water, then after some times it disappears to the underground and we don't know where this water goes. And if you go to the other side, you find the water is just coming out, for example, from West Pokot. So that's a good indication, even maybe Prof. to do a research about this disappearance of the surface run of water. Where does this water goes? And that's why we are experiencing, by the way, a lot of landslide, especially from the Rift Valley counties. So we can also think about that as part of the research. Of course, you have mentioned about the arid and semi-arid counties in Kenya, which is covering almost 3/4 of our land surface. But unfortunately, those places do not receive adequate rainfall. So we need to think as a country, how best can we, the retro amount of the rainfall which we usually receive, especially, for example, if you go to the El Nino of 2023, you saw that we were coming from a drought whereby we had like a 3-year period of 50 consecutive fed rain seasons. But the rains, then it came towards the October, November, December of 2023, and you saw that all of the waters went to the Indian Ocean. So as a country, we need to think about how best can we harvest this rainfall during the rain period. Then the water can be used during the dry period. So those are my submissions. Maybe Prof, you have a comment?
If you do, I want us to keep it like to a second, quite literally, and then I'll take parting shots from everyone, and then we can end the panel. Professor.
Yeah, I'm very happy because our colleague actually has offered us solutions. We will not fight that. We need to take it because he has is thinking about, instead of us responding to the disasters, why can't we prevent the disasters even before they happen? And those are the solutions. So I think, again, this is something that I'll also take to National Disaster Operations Center, because they are the right people to address the issue. So I assure you I will take it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take parting shots from the end. Please keep it one sentence. Do not put a lot of commas. It has to be one sentence. What would success look like to you when it comes to disaster risk reduction and climate action from where you'd sit for all of you? I'll start with Chris, Richard, all the way.
I think, yeah, one sentence is all these make sense if it reaches the farmer or the user. So despite all these that we're discussing, it only makes sense if it gets to the user and makes sense to them, and they take action based on the earth observation that we do.
Thank you. Mr. Richard, from a Kenya Met perspective, success?
We need to move from the reactive to proactive approach. Thank you.
Red Cross?
Yeah, I can say that we don't want to react or to respond to disasters like we were doing 10 years ago. Let us take advantage of the Earth observations, which can give us the predictions, what is likely to happen. Then within a window of opportunity, then we can make early actions. Thanks.
Pauline?
Everything they've all just said, and the aspect of, we've placed a lot of the burden on national government, on humanitarian sector, but as private sector, I feel there's a huge opportunity for us to come in, because also businesses and everything around that are affected. So success would be when private sector is brought in and they see the space where they can operate in trying to address disasters and address climate action. Thank you.
Prof?
Yeah, in addition to all those, we need to make science-driven policies. It's good to have a policy without good framework and without data to back it up. We will still come back here to discuss these issues of disaster, of these issues of climate change and all those things. So we need data-driven solutions to our problems. Thank you.
please, can we please have a round of applause for my panel? That from the very end, Mr. Chris from FuseNet, Mr. Richard Masinde from the Kenya Met, Mr. Zachary Misiani from the Kenya Red Cross and from the Kenya Red Cross Society, Ms. Pauline Okeo from ESRI, and Professor Godfrey from the Taita Taveta University. That was my esteemed panel, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being a part of this and making this an interactive session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I'd kindly request just for a photo session as you're still up there. Wow, looking wonderful, wonderful. And I hope the audience has been impressed by the great minds that have been before you. Come on, smile, smile. Put a big smile there. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's give them another clap as they take their seats. Thank you. Because of time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move on to the next sessions. A very powerful session that's about to start here. I'm going to introduce a very powerful voice guy. I'm honored to call him my friend. He's a person who has actually mentored me in what I'm doing right now. So when you hear him hold the mic, you're going to hear a very big voice, and he's going to shake the room up. So you better, guys, you better be energetic, because I know this guy, he usually likes the outdoor stuff. So when you come to him with a low mood, he's always the life of the room as well. So we're going to move on to the diversification of the space sector. We're going to have a round of panelists from different industries, from the legal side, even up to the gaming sector. I know you guys look at me wondering, how does video gaming come into the space industry and so on. But yeah, it's going to be a powerful session. So I'm glad and honored to actually invite up here Mr. Byron Anangwe for the diversification of the space sector. Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And on the other side, we're going to be having human settlements, spatial planning, and health systems. It's just about to start right now. And the lead, I believe, the moderator is already on the floor on that side. Yeah, it's Charlene, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, she's the lady at the back there with a wonderful green dress. You can maybe wave to the people. Yes, so if you want to join the human settlements, spatial planning, and health systems, mostly dealing with telemedicine and the urban planning, please proceed down